Welcome to Stat Masters. I'm your host, Evan Ringler. Every week on this show, I bring you quick hitting statistical takeaways to give you an edge in your fantasy leagues. All the player stats that I mention on this show can be found at playerprofiler.com. You can also tap into a variety of rankings that I'm involved in, including weekly, seasonal, dynasty, and more. Let's get it started with the Cardinals defense. In the first 6 weeks of the season, Arizona's defense ranked 28th in EPA per play, 32nd in success rate, and 29th in EPA per dropback. In weeks 7 through 12, they rank 6th in EPA per play, 12th in success rate, and 6th in EPA per dropback. Part of this disparity is definitely the easier schedule, but the defense has certainly made a huge leap either way. The Cardinals are not the shootout potential team they were early in the season. Next up, Khalil Shakir. Over the last 5 games, Khalil Shakir has earned a 21% target share or higher and scored 11 points per game or higher in every single game, excluding the snow game where he got 41% targets but just 7 fantasy points. In weeks 7 through 9, he had an air yard share of 3%. In the last 3 games, though, this has risen to 31%. If this trend of downfield targets continues, Khalil Shakir will be a league winner in the wide receiver 2 slot of your lineup. This is also a huge win for his dynasty value, as he is presumably the number 1 receiver in Buffalo for the future. Now let's look at the Bears defense. In weeks 1 through 8, Chicago's defense ranked 4th in EPA, 5th in success rate, 2nd in EPA per dropback, and 6th in dropback success rate. In weeks 9 through 13, they rank 19th in EPA per play, 20th in success rate, 19th in EPA per dropback, and 21st in dropback success rate. While the Bears' defense looked amazing against a soft schedule, they have been exposed recently by divisional opponents. This defense is closer to average than good, so you shouldn't be scared to start your players against Chicago. Now let's look at the Cardinals' offense. Arizona has played 2 games since their bye week. In these 2 games, the offense has posted a dropback rate over expected of plus 12% and plus 7%, which both surpassed their previous season high. These game plans have also led to Trey McBride's 2 best games of the season, despite not finding the end zone. I've presented the case for McBride multiple times this season, but here it is one last time. He ranks 1st in target share, 2nd in air yard share, 2nd in yards per route run, 3rd in expected points per game, 4th in yards after the catch, and 2nd in red zone target share despite not scoring touchdowns. While Bowers has gotten the headlines recently, McBride is certainly in the same tier of game-breaking young tight ends. Now let's look at Caleb Williams. In weeks 1 through 10 with Shane Waldron, Caleb ranked 27th in EPA per play despite facing an incredibly easy schedule with no divisional opponents. Since Thomas Brown took over, the Bears have faced the Packers, Vikings, and Lions, 3 of the best defenses in the NFL. In this span, Caleb ranks 11th in EPA per play. Caleb has been especially great in the second half of these games, where he's looked like the quarterback we saw at USC. These last few weeks were absolutely necessary to keep his dynasty value afloat. I'm confident in saying that Caleb is a good player that just needs a bit of time and coaching to reach his elite potential. Now let's look at the Steelers' defense. Since week 8, the Steelers have become the premier run funnel defense in the NFL. Over the span, Pittsburgh ranks 2nd in EPA per dropback, but 31st in EPA per rush. And I have some more bad news for Steelers fans. The next 4 running backs that they face are Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, and Isaiah Pacheco. I will be ranking Chubb above consensus this week. Now let's go to a quick word from the Podfather.
Oh, incredible news about Fast Draft. Fast Draft DFS is live. It's called the Flex 6 Frenzy. You just draft 6 guys, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends for the Sunday slate. You like Jahmyr Gibbs? You like Jackson Smith and Jigba? You like Tyrone Tracy? Draft him, draft him, draft him. And the beauty is you can just order 5 teams, submit your rankings, and Fast Draft will email you the results. We awarded $1,000 in prizes our first week, and we're just going up from there. Soon there's going to be a select 6. No drafting at all. You just pick any 6 guys. Our DFS mantra, just say no to salaries on Fast Draft. Don't forget there's free tools on Fast Draft too. You want to get ready for startup season? We've created the best Dynasty mock draft experience there is. And if you want to play in these DFS contests, and our best ball contest for 2025 are coming very soon too, just use promo code PODFATHER when you deposit and you get a free draft. It's that easy. And you're like, oh, I already have Fast Draft. Great. Refer a friend. Have them put your username in as the promo code, and then you and your friend will both get an instant deposit match up to $25. We got DFS. We got Dynasty Mocks. We got Best Ball. It's all there for you on fastdraft.app. Check it out. And the promo code is PODFATHER.
All right, let's get right back into it with the Chiefs defense. In weeks 1 through 7, the Chiefs defense ranked 8th in total EPA per play and 9th in EPA per dropback. Since week 8, these ranks have dropped to 26th and 28th, respectively. If the Chiefs defense isn't the top 10 unit they've been in recent years, then this might be a fraudulent team that gets bounced early in the playoffs. While I still have faith that they can turn it on when it counts, this is a huge story to keep track of down the stretch this season. Now let's look at the Lions' strength of schedule. In the fantasy playoffs, the Lions match up with the Bills, Bears, and 49ers. In terms of strength of schedule, Detroit ranks 32nd for both quarterback and wide receiver, but 3rd for running backs. I expect Montgomery and Gibbs to absolutely smash in the fantasy playoffs, but you should be wary of the passing game. Next up, the Bucs and Raiders, who have both become the premier pass funnels in the NFL. Both the Raiders and Bucs defenses rank in the top 5 of EPA per rush, but the bottom 5 of EPA per dropback since week 8. These are the premier pass funnel defenses in the league right now, and they happen to play each other this week. After this week, the Bucs play the Chargers, Cowboys, and Panthers, while the Raiders play the Falcons, Jags, and Saints. These are 2 pass defenses to target in the fantasy playoffs. Next up, the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee faces the Bengals, Colts, and Jaguars in the fantasy playoffs, 3 of the worst defenses in the league. At all 4 fantasy positions, the Titans rank in the top 5 for playoff strength of schedule. Levis, Pollard, Ridley, and possibly Westbrook-Ikine are all very exciting down the stretch, despite this offense's struggles throughout the year. Now let's look at Jahmyr Gibbs. Among the 32 running backs with 100-plus carries this year, here are the leaders in breakaway run rate. We have Gibbs at 11.7%, then Jordan Mason at 7.8%, tied with Bigsby at 7.8%, then Derrick Henry at 7.5%, and Barkley at 6.9%. So Gibbs has almost a 4 percentage point lead in this category. Jahmyr Gibbs also has a massive lead in terms of EPX and true yards per carry. While David Montgomery is a good player in his own right, it's clear that Jahmyr Gibbs has next-level explosive potential and is possibly the most explosive back in the league. We don't know exactly how the touch distribution will work on a week-to-week basis, but Gibbs should be thought of as the 1A no matter what. Now let's look at Breece Hall, who was downgraded to doubtful today, unfortunately. These are the leaders in routes run among running backs this season. We have Breece at 336 routes. In second place is Kamara with 228 routes. So he has a massive lead, 60%. Third place is Rachaad White, and then we have Bijan and Zach Charbonnet. Breece also has the best playoff strength of schedule among all running backs. If he can get healthy, then he can absolutely smash based off of volume and matchup despite the bad offense. Next up, let's check on the unrealized air yards leaderboard. In first place, we have Calvin Ridley at 905 unrealized air yards. Then we have Roma Dunze at 719, Cortland Sutton at 687, Malik Neighbors at 653, and Alec Pierce at 640. Odunze really stands out to me here. While his rookie year has been underwhelming, we should remain optimistic in Dynasty. And lastly, let's look at Bucky Irving. Bucky ranks 7th in true yards per carry, 4th in juke rate, 8th in EPX, 3rd in yards created per touch, and 11th in yards per route run. Bucky is an explosive, well-rounded running back, exactly what we look for in Dynasty. Even with Rachaad White taking 40% of touches, Bucky can still be a high-end RB2 a la Jahmyr Gibbs. Thanks for joining me this week on StatMasters, and I'll see you again next week for more quick-hitting statistical takeaways.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.